is our last section for this chapter. It's called inverses. And there's a reason why it follows the composition functions. In order to find your inverse, you need to use composition functions in order to determine if they are in fact inverses. So in inverse, we've kind of talked about inverses before with matrices, but this is in a different light now. Our inverses can be found based on our compositions, like I said before. So if I have composition of f and g, that's of x and that equals x, then, and if we switch it around, if that is true, then the two functions are inverses of each other. Okay, so we're going to look at this a little bit and determine whether or not we actually have two functions that are inverses. We'll look at it. And this is a good review anyway, because we're looking with compositions and we just did that, so it's a good review. All right, so looking at this, I have f of x equals 6 minus 2x, g of x equals 6 minus x over 2. So I'm going to do the composition of both of these, and if they are in fact inverses, when I plug in x into this and simplify it all down, the two answers should equal each other. So that's my whole goal behind this. Okay, so for this first one, remember we're going to plug the g, because it's the second one, and we're going to plug the g into the x spot of our f function. Just like so. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and simplify this out, and I get 6 minus 6, because our 2's cancel. Then with our x's, we have a negative and a negative. We have two negatives, so then it's a plus x. Well, 6 minus 6 is just 0, so my final answer is x. So in order for these two functions to be inverses, we know that this right side has to equal x as well. So we're working with the f function goes into the g function. So I have 6 minus, in this case, 6 minus x, all over 2. Well, I get from here 6 minus 6. Oops, I forgot a 2x there. Jumping ahead a spot. Plus 2x over 2. Well, we get 2x over 2, which can reduce down to just x. So in this case, we get x equals x for both of them. So they are, in fact, inverses. Okay, so notice all we're doing is just plugging them in and simplifying. So for you guys, I'm going to have one more problem. And then we'll move on to the next type of problem. So for this first one, f of x equals x plus 7, g of x equals x minus 7. So I would split them into two separate things here. That way you remember that they are different. So good luck. All right, so for this first one, I'm going to go ahead and plug in the g of x into the x plus 7. So I have x minus 7 plus 7. Well, notice the 7's just cancel, we get x. Go ahead and work then on the second one. All right, so this one I'm plugging the f function into the g function. So I know it's something minus 7. It's x plus 7 in this case, which we know equals x. So the answer is yes, they are inverses. All right, and for the last thing, we have to find the inverses of a function. So instead of them giving one and the other and determining whether or not they are inverses, they're going to give you one function and you have to find the inverse. So something to note, if f and f negative 1 we know is the inverse, because we should remember that from matrices. If those two are inverses, then f of a equals b if and only if, notice we're going back to geometry with that, if and only if f negative 1 of b equals a. Okay, this looks kind of goofy right now, but don't worry, you'll get it once we go through an example. So basically what this means is that you're going to flip-flop the x and the y and solve for the variable that you're trying to find. So let's say, for instance, that I have f of x equals 4x plus 4. Well, we've talked about functions before that f of x is really like a y. Okay, so this is my original one. In order to find my inverse, flip-flop x and y. That's my first step. My second step is then solve for y, or solve for x, sorry. All right, so with this one, I'm going to go ahead and flip-flop my x and y's. Now I'm going to solve for this y. So I know that I'm going to have to subtract 4. And then I am going to divide by 4. So what this means this bottom part, x minus 4 over 4 equals y, that's my inverse. So f of negative 1 of x then equals x minus 4 over 4. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to give you one more, and you guys should be able to do it on your own, okay? So for you guys, I'm going to give you f of x equals negative 2x minus 1. So good luck. To start off with, I'm going to write y equals negative 2x plus minus 1. I'm going to go ahead and flip-flop the x and y's. All right, I'm going to go ahead and solve for y. So I have x plus 1 equals negative 2y. Now I'm going to divide everything by negative 2. So then my final answer is going to be f of negative 1 of x equals x plus 1 over negative 2. Final answer.